Oh, hello again, class. Seems that we meet again. I hope that you're really liking Ready Player One so far. I know I am, and it's it can be kind of hard to understand it for a little bit. Like maybe you don't understand some of the references it talks about, since the book really does take place, like a lot of like the references are taking place between pop culture of the 1970s and 80s, which really is Ernest Cline's childhood, but he wants us to think that's James Halliday's. And as they're trying to figure out what's going on in the Oasis, this is what he's trying to do. They're trying to figure out everything, and everyone's like getting so interested in this that basically that's become like the modern like pop culture of the day. And with most of these things, that it in a way it can be like a time capsule. A time capsule is, if you don't know, is like a thing that you put like newspapers or other things from the day, and you take it, you bury it in the ground after sealing it, and it can be hidden away for like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, 100 years, however long. And then people pull them out after that time, and then they can look back and see, oh, this is what life was like back in, like if we were to do this today, what life would be back in like 2018, if they were to do this in 2118, or however long. And the same thing can be said with books or movies. And some of the books that I really think about that goes along with this, Ready Player One is a great example, because it talks about the pop culture of the 70s and 80s. It helps us kind of figure out stuff like that. But you can also say the same thing with To Kill a Mockingbird, which tells us about the 20s or 30s. But that's not the only one out there. There's also Eleanor and Park. Eleanor and Park again talks about the 80s, and it just talks about like the pop culture and other things about that day. But really, the same thing can be said about like any old movie, whatever, or even if you're trying to make a contemporary story for your day. Eventually, it's going to help people figure out what life was like back when you wrote it. And the same thing happens with movies. And so what I want us to do for this, with specifically Ready Player One, is I want you to be able to look and find something within the book, and see like whatever reference he makes, and be like, "Huh, that's weird. I never heard that before." And you're going to take that and you're going to share it with the class at the end. And I want to share with you one that I found, and this is kind of a little bit of a spoiler for the end of the book. But close to the end, when he's in the final battle to try to get the final puzzle and get the egg, so we all know that this all ends up like culminating at that point. But still, you don't know. He might not get the egg in the end. I'm not going to tell you. So, specifically at the end, there's a giant robot battle that happens between the bad guy, who has like a giant Mecha Godzilla, versus our hero, Wade Watts, who has Leopardon. And I was like, what is Leopardon? Leopardon, as I found out, is like in Japan in the 1970s. They had to deal with Marvel to make their own. I think it was just a TV show. Yeah, it was a TV show to do like their own version of Spider-Man. And with it, because it was in Japan, and at that time they were really into like giant mechs, whatnot. They decided to give Spider-Man his own, and they decided to name it Leopardon. Don't ask me why, but it's even come into like nowadays in the comic books of today. And when you do this yourself for your own assignment, I want you to be able to tell me like where it is in the book, what context it has, as well as like what kind of information is it's telling us. And with this, like you can use Wikipedia, it's totally fine. It's not like we need like super serious sources, because this is just pop culture. It's not really that big of a deal. But this way as you're reading the book, to look for something. Find something that really interests you, and when we finish the book, I want us to be able to do this and to just discuss each one of ours. I'll find another one. I'll explain to the class. Don't worry about if you're repeats. It's totally fine. And until I see you again, watch the skies.